How we doing, people? Back again with another film study. However, this film study is going to be a little bit different compared to the ones I've done before. As you can probably see, it's amateur boxing. And now there are a few reasons for this, which I'm going to get into. But I guess the primary reason is that this gentleman here in the green vest and the red gloves is actually a friend of mine. And this was his most recent fight. So, and I'm going to leave like his Instagram link in the description so you can check him out. Definitely destined for big things, I reckon. And of course, shout out to you, Gabriel, for the clip, of course. And so some of the other reasons that I've decided to do a study on this is it's a very dense clip despite only being a couple of seconds long. But there's an overarching message that I'm hoping to get across and some themes that I believe uphold this message. And so I'm just going to play the clip in real time for you guys to see. You can see Gabriel absolutely just rocks his opponent. And as I say, like the clip isn't very long. It's 2 seconds, 3 seconds tops. But what happens here, there's a lot of things to dissect. We can see that Gabriel, the referee, is kind of in the way here. But Gabriel he steps forward. Okay, so he's looking to advance. He steps forward, and then he steps forward again, this time with a controlling jab. So he's hit his opponent with the double forward. And now this is a basic but underrated motion, I want to say, or move, let's say. So he is now using this controlling jab to bridge the gap between himself and his opponent. And we can see his opponent looks to do the same thing. And you could say that Gabriel is leading because he's getting his jab first and he's getting the reaction from his opponent. And if we go forward a little bit, we can see that his opponent with the blue gloves, he's getting a piece of it. He's able to get his hands on Gabriel, kind of affect his vision a little bit, influence the head, control the head a little bit, which can disrupt the construct and the technique of a fighter. And you can see though he's very much on the center line, whereas we're going to see some very clean right hand punching mechanics from Gabriel. A little bit locked up at the hip here, but that could be from the control and the disruption from his opponent's lead hand, and the right foot maybe just needs to be turned over a little bit. But to be honest, like I did a study on Anthony Joshua, and he has, similar shortcomings in his technique. So for an amateur fighter, this is pretty good, and it's a very solid punching mechanic and a weight transition. And what we can see here is Gabriel's in this very deep position on the front foot where the right hand has finished and it's landed on his target pretty cleanly. And we can also see that his opponent's right glove has just gone sailing over the right shoulder of Gabriel, which is that's defense. If the punch doesn't land, it's defense, and this is defense while landing your own offense. So it shows the importance of coming off of the center line when looking to land your own punches, which Gabriel nails. And then from there, you can see he's coming out of this front foot position because now the left side is loaded. So that means the left hand is the power hand. That's where the power shots are going to come from. And he rips this left hook back. And what that does is that brings him onto the back foot of his stance. And that's another really good weight transition. You can see the left side has almost been completely turned over. But then what comes next? We can see that Gabriel, he doesn't just kind of roll in place. And God forbid he doesn't just return to the center line back to take return fire. But he actually does a double backwards, I guess you could call it, and makes his way out of the engagement, but once again back into another effective fighting position, ready to go again if his opponent wasn't rocked and tried to come forward. Or he could just finish him off. It's having the presence of mind to know, what am I going to do next? And then we can see, we just play it again, just like that, rips these punches, and his opponent's buzz, just like that. 2-3 seconds. intelligent application of technique. And now that's a great sequence. It's a very dense sequence when a lot of people would see that and think, okay, 1, 2, 3, left, right, left. You know, it's when you actually break it down, you can see that there's actually a lot, and you can see the intelligence behind it. But how can we make it even better? And so if we go back through it again, we can see that Gabriel, he goes into his double forward, controlling the space with the jab, looking to bridge the gap for his opponent. It's hard to see because it's from the side, but it kind of looks like Gabriel's a little bit, he's on the center line, which, you know, if you're looking to start an engagement on the center line, very risky, very dangerous, because that's where you can be vulnerable to so many different shots. But then the right glove could maybe be a little bit high just to remedy that forward fire, because when you're at long range, it's going to be the straight shots are really going to be the only viable shots for your opponent to land in a lot of cases. And so you might just want to bring that right glove up just as an investment, a kind of proactive bit of defense. And also staying on the center line, that means your opponent gets a piece of that head control, which disrupts the technique, even though this technique is really good. Sometimes, just moving on to this part here, you've now landed the right hand and you're in this front foot position where the left side is loaded. You don't always have to rip straight back. You know, we're always on the pads. It's 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Why not a 1, then a 2, or a 2, then a 3? You notice how you mix up the tempo and it can really catch your opponent out, because if we go to that left hook, the reason why it's not the most devastating, you see it lands and it knocks this guy's chin around a little bit, but it's not the most devastating left hook, even though 90% of the mechanics are pretty great. The reason why is because if you look at the arm, it's not in a really a suitable or conducive place to land power, with power rather. And so the reason for that is because the opponent is not in the sweet spot of the trajectory of the left hook. The left hook is made for if your opponent's head was here, because then you notice that's your humerus, your elbow's probably here, and then you can have that 90-degree bend in your elbow and just rip right through his chin. However, he's very much on the center line mostly, and so that means that the left hook is not it doesn't fit in that it's not the most fitting punch while your opponent is here in this position. You know, you could land, but it's going to be a long range left hook, one that isn't really designed for power. But you know, that's your position relative to your opponent's, and then we can see the presence of mind to jump out of this exchange and be ready for another one. And so this is great stuff. This is like 2-3 seconds, but there's so much to take out of it. But we can see that there are improvements to be made. The placement of the gloves relative to the distance and the position of your opponent. Then we have the tempo between punches. It's not always bam, bam. Sometimes it's bam, hold it, just defend, bang, like that. And then also we have the presence of mind. What do I do after I've landed my punches? Do I just return to the center line? Do I throw another punch? Do I roll? You know, it's all about before, during, and after. That's what intelligent boxing is. And so, just to play it for you guys one more time, and I want to close this video up because those are some key themes. There's the strengths of this sequence and the shortcomings of this sequence. And amateur and professional boxing are separate sports, but they feed into each other. And the point I want to get across is there's a different culture in amateur boxing, which in my experience, I don't necessarily agree with, because yes, they may be different sports and they're scored differently and the format is slightly different. But the aim is the same. Your goal is the same: to hit your opponent and not get hit. Have a marriage of effective offense and defense, so you can carry out that goal. And so therefore, why is it that when it comes to amateur boxing, you're only taught a certain way to fight, and a lot of stuff is left on the table? Because yeah, it's amateur boxing, you're an amateur athlete, but we're still looking to achieve the same thing. We're still looking to offend our opponent while effectively defending ourselves. And so the message I'm trying to get across here is, even if you're an amateur boxer and you're only interested in amateur boxing and you have no ambition to become a pro, you can still benefit from having professional quality technique. And if anything, if you hope to achieve really good things, big things, you need to have that kind of professional standard for your technique. Because at the end of the day, it's still boxing. There's this once again, going back to the culture of amateur boxing, there's still this idea of, you go to amateur boxing gyms and it's all work rate, it's all volume. It's okay, you start first and you finish last. You're in out, straight shots, blah 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 blah. There's high volume, high speed. There's not really an emphasis on quality. There's not really an emphasis on intelligent setup and the presence of mind. What are you doing before your punch? What are you doing during your punch? What are you doing afterwards? Whereas as a professional, you can't leave anything down to chance. You have to have kind of meticulous control over as many variables as you can. And so why not exercise it, even if you are just an amateur? But that is the message I want to get across in this. Not the longest video, not the most exciting, but I hope it gets across the message that I'm trying to convey. You might be an amateur, but still strive for that professional technique, because it's still boxing after all. So once again, thanks to Gabriel for sending me the clip. I'll leave his link to his Instagram down below, so check him out, give him a follow, and support him on his journey. And of course, I hope this makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know in the comments, and of course we can talk over these things. Do you agree? Do you disagree? Do you need a bit more justification of the things I've highlighted? It's all good. Let's get the discussion going. But most importantly, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next video.